Welcome into the A-List podcast. I'm Kwani A. Lunis, joined by Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn. How have y'all been? It's been
good.
A week. Yeah? How was All-Star?
Glad to be back from Cleveland.
I saw.
Glad to be back from Cleveland. It was cold in Cleveland.
Shocker.
I mean, I'm used to cold, but this Cleveland was a different kind of cold. Like cold.
It's
Cleveland.
winter. What did you expect? Chicago was
we had
cold.
wine, so it was all good, though. We had wine. It was all good.
There you go. Keep your spirits warm during that time.
Did you enjoy yourself, G?
Yeah, Cleveland was okay. It was okay.
See, at least Gary keeps it real with us. That's why I appreciate it.
Well, okay is an upgrade for Cleveland. Usually Cleveland sucks.
I like Cleveland.
I thought the city could have done better in terms of the amenities for the All-Star game. Not for reporters, but just making the city look a little bit better. It's just one of those. It was nice, but I thought Cleveland would step up a little bit more than it did. That's just my assessment.
Do you mean like transportation wise, or the venues? What were you?
Yeah, just like cleaning up downtown, making downtown look more presentable, having more open places for people to eat and for people to be able to grab just the amenities to make it, show the best of your city. This is not a Tuesday in March. I mean, this is an All-Star weekend. So like have businesses open late, have, companies just really spruce up downtown and make the area near the arena look like, $1 million as opposed to I've been to, Cleveland was no different looking than I had seen it before.
Like a regular season game.
Yeah, I just thought the city could have really stepped up. The arena was nice, and the game was nice, and whatever. But I just expected a little bit more. When cities ask, to host the All-Star game, you expect that they're going to really step up.
That's fair.
We don't have to worry about that because next year Salt Lake City will definitely step up. I know Gary's really looking forward to going to Salt Lake City.
Things I never thought I'd hear in a sentence. But I mentioned, both of you were at the All-Star Weekend festivities. This is the NBA 75th anniversary. What, from your perspective, made it a little more special, considering that they were celebrating so much?
I didn't think it didn't really feel more special, only because a lot of the trappings that we would be engaged with it and we'd be doing, we still weren't able to do just because of health and safety protocols. There was a lack of availability for for all those legends, which I thought was a real opportunity missed for the NBA to really have more stories about, the guys who are on that 75th anniversary team. But overall, it didn't really feel as significantly different as I would have liked. For me personally, one of the highlights was running into Dave Bing, who former Detroit Piston, former NBA player who also played at Syracuse University back in the day. I had to throw that out there.
Of course.
And spending a little bit of time with Dave Bing was really cool to me. Was former mayor of Detroit. So that was for me one of the cooler things about the weekend. The way that Gary is about James Harris, who played for the Rams, I'm kind of like that about Dave Bing.
Okay.
Dave Bing's that's like my dude. That's like my North Star. That's the guy that I really, really admire for lots and lots of reasons. So
I hope he didn't fanboy.
I went kind of fanboy on him when I ran into him. Maybe I was absolutely in my fanboy mode. So,
We all get one pass in our industry.
Well, it wasn't like I ran into Michael B. Jordan or nothing like that, but
We're not even going to go there today. Gary, what was your takeaway?
From the 75, I thought the 75 was well done. I like Sherrod said, I felt like they could have had. Okay, I remember seeing tapes. I wasn't there in '97, obviously. I was like, I think my first year covering the NBA, so I did not get a chance to go to All-Star.
I was 4.
Yeah, you were 4.
I had to. I'm sorry, Gary.
Well done, Juwan. Well done. Way to make the old man feel old. I see you.
I do what I can.
Anyway, moving forward. you see the tapes of like them having like Wilt Chamberlain speaking to a scrum, and all the legends were available for interviews and able to tell their journeys and their stories, and even help promote the league and what they think about the league today.
Right.
And I think that the NBA, like Sherrod said, botched an opportunity. They would not let us talk to the legends. Like, they did not make any media availability. And I don't think that they should have to talk to us. Like, I thought they could have said to the guys, to the legends, hey, I mean, obviously, we're not going to get Jordan. We're not going to get probably Dennis Rodman. Maybe we would have gotten Dennis Rodman. Who knows? But they could have said, hey, X, hey, if there's a 35, 40-minute window for to speak to the media, those who would like to talk to the media. I mean, you don't mean to tell me Bob McAdoo, Robert Parrish, some of those guys wouldn't have wanted to talk about their journeys, and Dominique Wilkins. Like, I just think that's another swing and miss by the NBA. It's promote your league. What do they think? What does Dominique think of now? Or what is Robert Parrish? We've talked to Robert Parrish over the years, or Bob McAdoo, or some of the guys that are just happy to be on the 75 team. Of course, I don't know if we're going to get, Jordan or, whoever, but Paul Pierce was there. You don't think Paul would want to talk? Like, they didn't make any of those guys available. The ceremony I thought was first class. I thought it was great. I thought, it'd have been cool. And I think they did maybe leave them time to themselves, like in that room where they were taking photos, where the current all-stars were able to mesh and kind of network and talk to some of these guys who were heroes. And I thought it was awesome that Jordan showed up. I think the whole weekend was like, is Jordan going to show? What's going to happen? Is he going to, because everybody knew he was at the Daytona 500 or whatever with his driver, Bubba Wallace. So is he going to come? And, if he isn't, that just kind of taints the weekend, because the greatest player of all time isn't at the 75. The fact that he showed up, and then the whole thing with him and LeBron, like, they have not, that was, I thought, the highlight of the weekend. Like, Jordan finally saying, hey, man, you the man. Like, much respect. I know I haven't been as open about my admiration for you, but, hugs, much love to what you've done. I just thought the league always seems to do things right, and I just thought that 75, and then it's just an egg in the face of the people who didn't show. I mean, the Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, like, what you got to do, Anthony? Like, Karl Malone, even Larry Bird. Like, come on, Larry, bring your ass to Cleveland. You live in Indiana. Like, what do you, like, now I can understand if people have some kind of excuses, or family obligations, but some of the people that didn't show up,
like Steve Nash. We know you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, right. Steve Nash, Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen scaves everybody, writes a book, but don't want to show his face at all. Don't want to show his face at All-Star Weekend where he has been here before. Mm-hmm. So I think that, the league can try to do, and remember, with the top 50 team in 1997, 47 of the 50 guys showed up.
Yeah.
One, Pete Maravich was dead. Jerry West was having surgery, and Shaq's, young ass was having had like a knee injury and didn't want to come to Cleveland. And then he said if he had known that it was going to be like it was, he would have came. Mm-hmm. So, I think that the league tried. It put on its best show. It did a good job. But I thought there was a couple things they could have done. But I thought overall the ceremony was touching and emotional.
And on a more local level, there are so many Celtics that made that 75 list. You two in particular being one of the few local media members there, I think the market could have benefited from having those conversations, more than just talking to Tatum about how it felt to be in a picture with legends. Like, what are the legends' perspective of being with someone like Tatum, and maybe hearing what, like you said, the younger generation has to say about the league. So I do agree that is a huge miss on their part. But overall, from a social media standpoint, I think they kind of facaded that by capturing all those moments with MJ and I love the Black excellence aspect of seeing all of our legends age gracefully. I thought that was really inspiring. So from that end, I'll give them a thumbs up, though.
It was all right.
From a social media standpoint, they did a good job. I mean, the NBA has always been one of the more premier leagues when it comes to their contact, I think, with millennials and the younger generations in general.
Yeah, I mean,
they mastered that part.
Yeah, I mean, they totally understand the power of messaging. the power of engagement and things like that. But
I just didn't.
Yeah, they could have done things a little bit better though.
I didn't get the whole and this is the maybe TNT, the whole introducing Jordan, then going to Machine Gun Kelly, and then sticks his tongue out at the camera. Like that was just so it was Machine Gun Kelly weekend. Like we had him, they gave him a forum to talk. Like first of all, I couldn't name a Machine Gun Kelly song. Like
Same.
Maybe
really,
I recognize his wife though.
Yeah, like no offense, like I
thought I don't get that one.
Handing him the keys to represent Cleveland, I thought was what are we doing here? Okay, he's a popular rapper from Cleveland, so it's his weekend. You put him in a celebrity game or whatever. You had him speak, and then basically he says, "I'm not going to dap any other entertainers from Cleveland. I don't know if you heard that, but I'm gonna reach out to the people who work hard," which is cool. But he's like, he could have named all the famous people that came from Ohio, from that Cleveland area. The OJs, great groups that came from Cleveland.
Halle Berry.
Halle Berry. Way before he was around, and so I just thought it was interesting for him. I mean, I didn't understand the whole let's hand it to Machine Gun Kelly and make him like the unofficial all-star host like that. And then I said the whole Jordan introduction, they put the camera on Machine Gun Kelly,
overshadowing it, yeah.
And then he sticks his tongue out at the camera or does something like it was like sometimes the league tries to be too cool. Stop that.
Well, I still think they could have got Halle Berry. They could have got the baby. The baby is from Cleveland.
That's true. I think that would have resonated more with NBA fans, but maybe it was. Yeah. I'm not understanding that one. Well, it's in the books now. 75th in the books, at least the weekend itself. There was a lot, though, that went on when you talk about JT and his presence there. I want to quickly dive into what do you guys think stood out about Tatum from All-Star Weekend?
He played, he started, and he didn't get hurt. Boom. That's a winner for me. That's all I really wanted to see him do was get out there, crack a sweat, maybe score a couple points, get back on the bench, and get ready for the second half of the season. Tatum, look, I think there are just certain players that because of how they operate are never going to really stand out in All-Star games. I think Tatum's one of those guys. He's such just kind of a skilled player who's looking for mismatches and iso ball, and you would think in something like an All-Star game that would work. But the problem is Tatum doesn't have that. I'm just going to score ridiculous buckets, even when you're not defending me. I think Tatum, he frankly, he doesn't have a loose enough game to take advantage of guys who aren't really defending him because he's so used to guys trying to limit him, and that's just not happening All-Star weekend. Tatum was good. No complaints. I'm looking forward to seeing him back on the floor when the games count, though.
Obviously, yeah.
I thought Tatum was fine. Like Sherrod said, I think the only way that he has one of those like crazy breakout All-Star games is if he starts hitting a bunch of threes, But he took the ball to the hoop a couple times. He had like 6 rebounds. Like he did what he's supposed to do. I don't think, like Sherrod said, his style lends to like him getting thrown alley oops and driving to the basket and dunking on people and doing that. And then I think what it is when you're trying to be go for the MVP, you got to try. Like Embiid was trying to get the MVP. Like Embiid was going at folks. He was putting it on the floor. He was showing all. And then Steph was just on one of them rants, one of them barrages, rampages, to where it was like, oh my God. I mean, it was just he was super Steph that night. So when he started hitting them, and he's like, well, shoot, this is a show. I'm gonna put on a show. So unless Tatum gets in that mode, like one of that 50-point mode where you're at the Wizards where it's just going down, he's gonna be one of those guys that gets 16 points. 8 rebounds, maybe 4 assists, a couple steals, and kind of take a step back to the real superstars who really are trying to go for MVP. Like I knew you could just tell Embiid was trying to go for MVP.
Yeah.
And Steph ended up outshining him because Steph's shot was falling.
Right. Final All-Star question, because we have to talk about this. There is a picture that Bleacher Report posted of KG, Paul Pierce.
Shout out to Bleacher Report. I see you.
And Ray Allen. Is the beef squashed? Are they friends? Do you have any sourcing on this information? People want to know.
Everything is status quo. Status quo. I think, listen, I just don't think they're ever going to get to a point where they're like good with each other. I think there's always going to be certain element of discontentment among them. And again, I think it's petty, but there's a part of me that kind of cringes at that and at the same time kind of likes the pettiness.
You get both sides. You can get both sides. I understand both sides.
I just wish that, they keep mixing it up, which the way they do. There's some days like the other day where it looked like, hey, maybe they've kind of made bygones be bygones, but then you realize, nah, they still petty.
Right.
They still petty. Yeah, I can't be mad at that. Can't be mad
They
at
did
that.
it for the people.
Exactly. For the people! I think you're muted, Gary.
Yeah. I think, okay, like it was a little bit confusing because what got out was the video when Ray was introduced, and then Garnett was like taking deep breaths, and everybody
he didn't
was like,
clap. Paul Pierce clapped a little bit.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, is he blowing Ray off, or is Ray blowing him off? And then so that was confusion there. Then Pierce, it wasn't Bleacher Report. Pierce put that photo on his Instagram page.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh, and they reposted, of course.
Yes, yeah. So let's credit Paul Pierce's Instagram.
Thank you for that.
It was Pierce's Instagram page that he posted in like the 6th of 10 photos. So that
makes it a bigger deal, though, that he posted it. Yeah.
Exactly. He posted the photo. So obviously someone either he knew took it or someone sent it to him or through his camera phone, he had it taken. The fact that Kevin even took the picture, I think, is major progress. Right. Secondly, Kevin was smiling. Okay. So either Kevin put on a big front for his boy or Kevin softened a little bit. Now, the question is, was the picture taken before or after the introduction? Was it taken in when they were back there, or was it taken before when they were doing photo shoots? Right. Because if you look at all the pictures, there was, all the Laker players that were 75. There was a picture. Paul had a picture of the 3 Oakland point guards, Kid, Peyton, and Damon Lillard. Like there were all types of segmented pictures, all the 76ers, Dr. J, Iverson.
There was a Celtics one with Cat where he decided to photobomb as well.
Yeah, exactly. There was a Celtics one where Tatum got in with, there was all these like segmented, Magic took one with Jordan. So obviously they were all doing photos. So if it was taken during then all of a sudden Ray blew him off, or he felt like, who knows? Yeah. I think the picture is a major situation because Kevin doesn't do anything on accident or to be nice. So Kevin had to want to do it because if not, they would have taken pictures at the Hall of Fame, whatever. When Paul was introduced into the Hall of Fame, Kevin obviously introduced him because you get a fellow Hall of Famer to kind of introduce you, right? When Paul got off the stage and Chris Bosh came up and Ray was on the stage, like Kevin left. Okay, Kevin was not around for the post when the ceremony ended where guys were taking pictures. All the Heat people were taking pictures with Bosh and Allen. Like Kevin was inexplicably gone. Kevin left. I was looking for Kevin. So there was going to be no one to get him and Paul together who are now all in the Hall of Fame and go, hey, Hall of Fame. Like you would think, and maybe the 75 thing has softened Kevin up a little bit because to get him to take that picture, and I know Kevin, okay, that's not no accident. Yeah. There was a reason why he took it. Now, was it a favor to Paul? Who knows? whether Paul was like, come on, man, please, like, because Kevin was smiling in that picture.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a major situation because the whole narrative all Monday afternoon was, oh, Kev still got major beef. Look what happened. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the afternoon, Paul posts all these pictures from the weekend, which includes like picture 6 of 10 pictures on Instagram. Him, Kevin, and Ray. Yeah. So maybe that's a progress. We'll see what happens March 13th. Will Ray come to the Garnett retirement ceremony? Will he be invited? Will he feel comfortable enough to come? We'll see. I think Ray wants no smoke. I think, let's be honest, folks, it's been 10 years. Okay, 10 years. We've lost 1 million lives to COVID. So many things have happened. So many people are gone in the last decade. Kevin, it happened. Ray won a chip with Miami, so it wasn't like, it was a useless move or y'all lost when you left. We could and people don't understand. I've explained to people for years. Okay, here's the situation. Danny dangled Ray in a trade to Memphis. Okay, Ray remembered that. Danny could have extended Ray during that 11-12 season. He didn't. Danny then signed Jayson Terry. So remember, Avery Bradley was emerging, and Doc was starting Bradley over Allen. So here comes an emerging Avery Bradley, and also you signed Jayson Terry. What position is Ray going to play?
Yeah.
And then Danny had that BS, Ray and Jayson can play together on really, you're going to play 2 shooting guards who don't defend well at the same time? Unless you trust, really? How are they all going to play together? That was the whole thing. Then
that was an opening.
Yeah, then they offered Ray, Ray took half the money. Ray went down to Miami, had dinner with Mickey Arison and Pat Riley, got calls from LeBron and D Wade, and that was a wrap. I can't blame Ray entirely for leaving Boston. Yeah. Because I talked to Ray during that season, and Ray was like, dude, they're not restricted to they can re-sign me today. They didn't. They waited last minute. Danny made some mistakes during his era. That, and then remember, folks, Tony Allen, Tony wanted 3 years, $9 million guaranteed. Danny gave him 2 years and $6 million.
No, pay that man.
With a 3rd year as a team option. Why he go to Memphis? Memphis guaranteed the 3rd year. All Tony wanted was $3 million a year. $3 million kept the Celtics from bringing Tony Allen back. And Tony had a good 3, 4, 5 more years in him before he slowed down, right? He helped build Grindhouse. So sometimes Danny made mistakes. And that was a situation that if he really wanted Ray back, he would have signed it. Now, was it not all that great for him in terms of team relations to go to the arch rival? Yeah, could he have went, would it have been better if he went to Charlotte or something? Of course. But people think Ray just blew off the Celtics. The Celtics had plenty of opportunity to re-sign Ray. And then the straw that broke Camel's back was signing Jayson Terry.
Yeah.
Ray is like, oh, you signed another, basically top 10 all-time three-point shooter? And I'm supposed to be cool with that? And this is not the Steph Warriors where you could put 5 shooters or 4 shooters on the floor and Draymond. This was still a traditional NBA with a big man, Perk, with Garnett, with Pierce. So you're going to play Perk, Garnett, Pierce, or whoever the big man is, and then play Allen and Jayson Terry. And then you got to put in Avery somewhere because Avery was 22 years old at the time, just kind of getting into his prime. Avery didn't have a great prime, but Doc liked Avery because he defended the hell out of it. He defended everybody, and he was good. He was emerging. So Ray was already losing minutes his last year. So there's a lot going on there. Now, could Ray have called Paul and Kevin and said, "Hey, fellas, this is what I'm thinking about doing"? I think he could have reached out to them and had one big collective Zoom conversation or whatever it was back then. Right. group text or 3-way call and
a letter.
Yeah, and figured it all.
They send emails through AOL.
Yeah, stop it, Kwani.
You got
Stop
mail. No,
I
you're
know,
absolutely right.
I know, Kwani. In 2019 or 2012, you were 19.
Just like Jayson Tatum's 19 now.
Yeah, just like Jayson Tatum. You were Jayson Tatum.
Yeah, same age.
So you were a freshman at BC.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's what I think happened. But it's time to end this beef, bring the 08 team back for a reunion, have everybody make friends. We done lost people to COVID. It's just too much now. Like this whole beefing, it was cute and people like that intrigue, but let it go. It's over.
When the last game that the Celtics played, Marcus Smart ended up leaving with an injury, a sprained ankle. So looking forward to this second half, not really half, but ending of this regular season, how much of a blow do you think, well, it's obvious answer, but will Marcus's absence make on that team moving forward?
I'm hoping he's good to go when they get back. I mean, and if he is not able to go, then it'll be just 2-3 games because he's such an important part of what this team is about. You know, they're like 3-7, 3-8 this year when he doesn't play at all. And when you look at this great stretch of play they're on, where they won like 9 of their last 10, I think it's 11 out of 13, something like that. His ability to defend at a high level, be a facilitator, and just frankly just chip in, odds and ends here and there to help this team win. That's so important to have a guy like that. And, the big thing about Marcus is that he is doing his best to shed that combo guard label that has been attached with him forever, because that's what he's been, a guy that can play both guard positions. But Ime has allowed him to be more of a facilitator, more of a playmaker, and you're seeing the residual effects of that kind of trickle down when you look at points scored, points allowed, differential, net rating, things of that nature. So I think he's going to be all right. I think the Celtics will be all right. But he's one of those guys that seems forever and a day he's always dealing with some type of injury. And I don't know about you, Kwani, but usually as I get older, those bumps and bruises don't just heal like they used to. Yeah. It takes a little bit of time. Sometimes you got to get a little – I'm not even going to say the product name, but there's some products that you can use. Yeah, because I'm not trying to get nobody no free
advertising at all.
We're doing that. But yeah, I just think that it takes a little bit more time to really kind of bounce back, if you will. But Smart, he's going to be fine though. I'm not really worried about him because again, this team I think as a group is playing well enough to win a lot of these games. Potentially when you look at the teams they got coming up, this week, they really should run the table and win all 3 games.
What about Robert Williams and his soreness of the calf? He's another one we've been talking about injuries all season, though, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the hope is that Marcus was able to heal during this week. I think he was listed as doubtful for the Detroit game that they lost, and they scratched him. Obviously, you don't want him playing in that game, regardless. Right. So you hope that he might be ready for Brooklyn on Thursday. I think we'll find out tomorrow because they return to practice tomorrow on Wednesday. And we'll find out if he's ready or do you rest him the weekend and just take your chances against Detroit and Indiana with the roster that you have and hope you can eke out a couple of wins there. Because right now every game is critical. They're 4.5 back. They don't want to be in the play-in, but they could definitely drop into the play-in. Them and Toronto are going to be fighting for that 6th spot. You don't know what's going to happen with Brooklyn when they start getting their healthy team together. Cleveland's still around, Chicago. So it's not guaranteed the Celtics are going to even finish out of the play-in. So they've got to win every game possible. And they have a pretty our man Amit said last week the 6th easiest schedule down the stretch, I believe, because they played everybody pretty much. 1 game left against Miami, 1 game left against Milwaukee. They have a good game at Golden State. So they're not playing – 1 game at Charlotte, 1 game left at Chicago. Like they have a chance to jump on teams and make this happen. A couple of games left with Detroit. The Pacers. Yeah, the Pacers. They're done with the Knicks. They got 2 more with Brooklyn. So they got a chance, to jump on. They got 1 more with Atlanta at home. Like they've got a chance to make some ground, but they're going to have to win some of these games. And so every game is important. So we'll see what happens and if Marcus is ready. And Robert, maybe he just needed a week off to rest his body. He's got to be tougher. Let's be honest. Some of these injuries are just not kind of like, calf soreness and things like that. Robert's got to either build his body up a little bit more in the offseason because these little sore left knee things are stopping him from being that first-rate caliber center.
Mm-hmm. Our favorite game segment, whatever you want to call it, pick and roll. We just talked about the All-Star break. Who is the player that you're going to watch, Celtics player specifically, post All-Star? Pick them, and why are you rolling with that person? Don't all speak at once now.
Sherrod is trying to talk.
I was trying to hear you, but you guys didn't hear me. No, the guy I want to see is Nesmith. That's the guy I really want to see. Because at this point, for the Celtics to have the kind of season that I think they envision, you're going to need someone that you're not necessarily counting on to all of a sudden be able to be counted on. And Nesmith is a guy that I think has the potential to do that. I mean, they've already cleared a pathway of sorts for him by getting rid of Romeo. And when you look at the way they're built, if you take away Tatum and Brown, they really don't have wings that you feel some semblance of good about. And he's a guy that, again, if he can start doing the one thing that they evaluated him on doing at this level is making shots. If he starts making shots, things are going to work out really well for him and the Celtics the second half of the season, where they could potentially go from, instead of just not being in a play-in game, they can actually be maybe a top 3, top 4 potential seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs, which is amazing for them considering where they were just like a month ago.
Yeah.
See, that's what he get for talking about me.
Yeah. No, I said, why don't you go? No, what do you think, Kwani?
I didn't have time to think about it. This might be a cop-out, but I'm just interested to see Tatum continue to build on his game because he's had a decent enough season, but I think being around all of these legends over the last weekend will help him maybe be a little more inspired to round his game out a little bit more and be more of a leader as well. That's my cop-out answer.
She totally copped out on that one. My goodness.
I want to see Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's a guy. Can he put the team on his shoulders, take some pressure off Tatum, be more consistent, and be that all-star? Does he have a chip on his shoulder? He missed out on some money because he didn't make the all-star team.
That's a good one.
And is he ready to be that all-star more consistently, stay healthy, avoid the turnovers, avoid the, sometimes questionable shot selection, or avoid driving to the basket and getting stripped, things like that. Like sometimes Jaylen this season has played unengaged. He's not quite been there. It looks like he's just trying too hard. He looks tired at times. Yeah. There's been some games where he don't look quite right. Can he take this week off? Because maybe maybe it was a blessing. He didn't get the chance to go to Cleveland and not get a lot of sleep and be out with the guys and all that. Maybe he needed to go somewhere, decompress,
warm,
rest his body, and then be ready for a monster last 22 games, because that's what they're going to need from him. I mean, I said, there's no guarantee they avoid the play-in. You would like for them to avoid the play-in if you're a Celtic fan. You don't want to play in that. You don't want to play in those one-and-done games, or have one game you got to win, and you get in, you're facing the second seed. You would like for them to maybe have a shot at that 4th seed and have a home playoff series or whatever. We don't know, but they still got a shot. They're only 4.5 out of first.
Right. And
I have a feeling that one of these teams is going to drop like a rock. I can't tell you which one.
Cleveland.
I'm looking here. Toronto is a half game behind us. They're 7th. So Milwaukee, they're 2 games behind Milwaukee, 2 games behind Cleveland, and 2 games behind Philly. You would think it might be Cleveland or whatever, but Cleveland's got a home-heavy schedule to finish. Who knows about, the Celtics. Just think about it, folks. The Celtics are 4 wins behind first place. Miami, they only have 4 less wins than Miami first place. You know how many games they blew this year? I mean, are you serious?
Right.
They could easily
have, up for grabs.
Yes, they could easily have 40 wins. They could easily be first in the East.
Yeah.
Which is kind of scary.
Anything is possible.
Yeah, anything is possible. But if they win half of the games that they blew this year, they'd be first in the East. So they have a shot here. Okay, they just have to play sound ball, and they need both Jalen and Jayson to be that two-headed monster to take them to that next level. So I'm pointing to Jaylen Brown as the guy who's got to come through more consistently, avoid turnovers, avoid I said before, the sleepwalking through first halves or just kind of like, oh damn, they stripped the ball. Like, get back on defense, make a hustle play, knock the ball away, get a rebound. If you're 2 for 11 from the field, damn it, Jalen, get 3 or 4 steals, get a couple of offensive rebounds, die for a loose ball. Like, that's what I'm looking for from Jalen.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Thank you, Kwani.
I do like
Gary Washburn.
After the trade deadline, obviously most teams look into the buyout market. Do you think the Celtics still need to be looking, or are you two okay with the team that they have now?
I want a guard. I want a guard who can make a shot and can run an offense. Brooklyn reportedly picked up Dragic, although that's not necessarily the guy I want because I'm not convinced he's got much mileage left in his game. But if you're the Celtics, you're looking for someone who you can basically throw out there for 15, 20 minutes a night. And those guys are not easy to find because often they're either making low money, so teams don't want to move them, or they're simply way out your price range, and you let them go by. So in buyout markets, obviously that becomes somewhat of an equalizer of sorts in that regard. But I don't think they're going to be players in the buyout market. I think they're going to rock with the crew they got unless in the next less than a week one of their main core folks gets hurt. But no,
Yep. As Mitt pointed out, the Celtics have 2 days to sign 2 players. Here's a player that they should target, and that's Jayson Carter, who just got waived by Brooklyn to make room for Dragic. Jayson Carter is a dude who plays defense like a hound. Remember, he was in that West Virginia system that played constant full court press. I remember him way back in his West Virginia days as a guy who was just a hard-nosed, little gritty guard who can hit threes, who's tough, not going to back down from anybody.
And he's old.
I mean, he's like 26, 27.
Yeah, but he's 26 going on 40, and you watch him.
I can't. He's even younger than Kwani, which is saying a lot, right? Because we all know Kwani's 19. Anyway.
Yes, only 19.
Yeah, only 19.
Yikes.
Yeah. I was 4 then. Yeah, we knew Kwani. Anyway.
So Jayson Carter, that's your guy.
That's the guy that I think that if he clears waivers, and because I don't know if the Celtics can claim him if they have the cap space, but if he clears waivers, he's the first guy I go after. Unless you want to depend on Peyton Pritchard, I think you can not hurt yourself by going after a guy like Jayson Carter. He's tough. He can defend. He's not going to want the ball. He can run a team. And, he's played well this year. I don't, obviously when you have Dragic, you choose him over Carter and Brooklyn's making so many roster changes and had to add so many people with the, bringing on Simmons and Curry and Drummond or whatever that they didn't have enough roster space. But I think he's an NBA player. Okay. He's the guy you go after.
Sherrod would disagree.
Well, I think that at some point, and I totally get why Brad is trying to get out of the babysitting, daycare business, which he's been in with the Celtics. With all these young pups running around here, clueless. There's a joke in there about you, Kwani, but I'm going to let it go.
Sorry to interrupt. Just read Jayson Carter signing with Milwaukee. So somebody
scratch that.
Somebody want him. See what I'm saying? Like, the Celtics
just like that, Gary. From Gary's mouth to the Bucks here.
See? So I ain't crazy. Some good team wanted him.
Well, you are crazy, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
What I think this is what I think the Celtics need to decide. Are you going to go after a guy that's already made who can help you now, or do you want to develop someone? And right now, Pritchard is like the development guy, but I'm not sure that he's that guy. I mean, he just hasn't been as impactful with any semblance of consistency that you want. And if you go and you look at that main Celtics team, the one up in Portland, Maine, they got a kid by the name of Chris Clemens who is balling. And I know he's more of a scoring guard than certainly playmaker, but he's had like 2 or 3 consecutive triple doubles. And even if you in the damn G League, that's nothing to sneeze about. Now, can he come in and help you win a playoff series? No, but he can probably give you 5 to 10 good minutes once a month, which is pretty much what you're getting out of Pritchard. And at least with him, there's a certain unknown dynamic to him. Whereas Pritchard, you pretty much know what you're dealing with. And even with Dennis Schroeder cast aside, Pritchard's still not giving you what you necessarily need him to bring on a night in, night out basis. And it might be time to try new buck. What's up, G?
You know Chris Clemens is 5'9".
I know he's another what? And Peyton Pritchard is a giant?
No, I'm saying if you're gonna do that, sign Isaiah. If you're really gonna bring in some 5'9" dude, bring in somebody who hasn't gotten buckets before in the league. If you're gonna do that, I like Chris Clemens. He played at Campbell. He has a high scoring college.
He was a high scoring guy in the country.
Yeah, at Campbell in Carolina, played for the Rockets some. I've seen him. He's putting up the numbers. But if you're gonna sign a dude that short, sign somebody who's proven. That's
so in other words, you want a Brad Stevens plan. You ain't trying to mess with the daycare kiddies no more.
No. What happened when they did that with Romeo, Carson, Shimmy?
Did you just call him Shimmy? Damn, what his name was Shimmy. You call him Shimmy. What, he French now? You're not brother from Nigeria. Shimmy.
Tremont, Taco. Like, where are they at?
Cow.
The development thing don't work. The Celtics haven't had a player, I looked at this, in the rookie game since Tatum. That shows you come on now. Like, they haven't, Neesmith and Pritchard, neither of them got a sniff. Pritchard could have gotten in the rookie game last year, maybe, but he got left out. But it's a shame that you're not developing young prospects. So you want to sign another young kid? I think Clemens is doing a great job in the G League. Now, if there's a high demand for him, you sign him to that other two-way contract to keep him obligated. But I don't think you bring him in for this season and try to make an impact. I think what you do is you go after a veteran who gets bought out, who can help you win a game or two. None of these buyout guys are going to turn around unless it's one of those high-profile guys who ask for a buyout from a bad team and come in there and get 10, 15 minutes a game. Other than that, you're asking this guy to win you a couple of games or make a play or two, that type of thing. Pritchard, I don't trust because he's not shot the ball well. Like, he's gotten tons of open shots this year. He just they haven't gone down. Neesmith, I don't trust in terms of scoring. I think he's a glorified hustle guy. I mean, we saw the damn rookie game, Rising Stars game the other night. Who was in there? Our friend Desmond Bain. All these guys. I mean, there's plenty. You can look at that draft and look at all the second-year players, and Aaron didn't even get considered. He wasn't even on a list. And I'm not ripping him. He's a nice kid. He's played hard, but he's turned into Romeo Part 2. Like, you're looking at like just a role guy.
Yeah.
Is Aaron Neesmith have potential to be an NBA starter? At this point, no. Like, unfortunately, I don't see it. Well, he's got to I think by now you could tell if he could. So I'm not signing no more prospects if I'm Brad Stevens. I'm going after vets. That's what the good. You see what Milwaukee's doing. You see what Brooklyn's doing. They're going after vets, dudes who know how to play, can know what to bring on the road. Been to all these cities. You don't want nobody, look, oh my God, I'm in the league. Oh my God, I can't believe this. No.
Gary hates kids.
He really does. But I get it comes down to
NBA kids, human kids, all kids.
I hate when kids tell you how young they are, tell you, "Oh, I was only 12."
Get off Gary lawn.
Gary is never going to get over this.
Get off his lawn, Kwani.
Right, he got a sign. Get off.
Then they remind you how young they are. Then if you ask them some reference, like, y'all remember like Mary J. Blige's first album, then
Mary who?
Mary J. Blige, what's the 411? Then Kwani want to get insulted.
Pull out the phone.
Yes.
What? I know that.
Get insulted about that.
I know that album. What you talking about? When you ask them age range questions and they ask if they remember, they get offended, but then yet want to remind you how young they are.
I can't even be mad at you for that. That's unfair.
I'm trying to ask you something that was out before you was born, and you acting like, why would you ask me that? I know that. My mama had that cassette.
Yeah.
I was humming that when I was in the womb. What you talking about with it?
But you know how young I am, right? You know I don't remember that, right? You know I wasn't around for that,
Life is about balance, Gary. You just have to get used to it. That's how we are.
Get off Gary's lawn, Kwani.
Life's about double standards. That's what this is, double standard. So if I ask, anyway, I think you use your two-way spots on development, because now you've got the one kid, Broderick Thomas, who signed to the two-way, but you have an open two-way spot. If you want to bring Clemens on and bring him, I think that's a good idea because he's putting up the numbers. But to depend on him to do something this year, nah, man. You go out and get an old guy. And Javon Carter, 26. He's 3 years younger than Kwani.
Javon Carter says he's 26. I think he sign West Virginia in first season there?
Need some investigative journalism in this.
I'm saying.
Well,
that brother got to be at least 40, Gary.
I can't stand you at all.
He spent at least 5, 6, 7 decades. He's older than Jerry McNamara.
7 decades. You need to be stopped. So, unrelated to the association, we're going to go to college basketball really quickly. I'm sure both of you have seen Juwan Howard in the altercation, as they're calling it, online. What were your reactions to the Michigan head coach? He's now been suspended for the rest of the Wolverine season. Do you think the suspension is fair? I know there's still speculation as to what happened, but would love to hear your thoughts.
I think the suspension was just. Based upon what happened, based upon the fact that this wasn't the first time he'd gotten into it with a coach. You know, a couple years ago, he got into it with Maryland's former coach. And so that it wasn't not quite to this magnitude we saw, but it wasn't as if this came out of the blue. But this is the thing that bothered me. And I wrote about this for Ebony.com.
Shameless plug.
No,
very smooth too. Like,
shameful.
Yeah, we're just working on this story. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, no. But the issue that I had with all of that was I don't have a problem with them punishing Juwan. I do have a problem with them pretty much letting the guy who instigated this skate scot-free, and that the head coach, Mr. Guard of Wisconsin. Because remember, when you look at the replay of the whole entire incident, Juwan is in that "don't mess with me, bro" mode. We have all had a friend, a family member, a cousin who had that look, and when they got that look, what do? Nothing. Right. They give you that look, and they say something under their breath, and whatever they say under their breath, you nod your head and you keep moving, because you know if you stop and you grab them, it's on. One of y'all gonna get hit with a 2-piece, unless somebody break it up. But there will be a 2-piece served by someone, and that coach grabbed him by his arm, and Juwan said, get the F off. He said at least 6 times. At least 6 times. Yeah. And you still are trying to engage him when he clearly is not in any frame of mind to engage you. Regardless of whether he's right or wrong, the point is he's pissed. Yeah. And he's one of them dudes, this. He's not one of them dudes. Gary, you can back me up on this. There's only a certain number of guys. There are a lot of guys in the NBA that talk tough, but there's only a handful who are actual tough guys. Juwan was one of them dudes. Juwan was one of them dudes that you could kind of joke with him about, I'm not going to mess with you because I know you. And he'll be like, you right. Yeah. I've joked with him about that before. And there was a part of me that was a little nervous about joking with him about that the first time because I didn't really know how he was going to take that. Juwan is the last guy in college basketball that a coach should be trying to grab on the arm, try to get his attention.
Yeah.
And so that was, to me, that I was bothered by the fact that there was very little attention paid to that, and he got a $10,000 fine, which was only like 25% of the fine that Juwan got, and he didn't get any games suspended. So anyway, go ahead,
Fair.
G-Money.
Go ahead, Kwani.
No, you can go. Gary's in the club right now, so he's trying to lay low.
No. Here it is. So when Juwan was with the Fab Five in 1991, which was 2 years before Kwani was born, so she should remember, he was the quiet, silent enforcer. Because I know Kwani is so young, she doesn't remember the Fab Five, and she doesn't know anything about it because she's only 20. She's only 29.
Only 19.
Before her time. Yeah. So I don't want because
I appreciate the backstory.
Okay. So when I think that here's the thing that I think it was very fair for him to get suspended the rest of the season. You cannot put your hands on anybody. You cannot swing. Juwan had plenty of time to back up and just walk back to the bench when the scrum came. Okay, Juwan had plenty of time to be like, okay, this is getting too much. I'm just going to walk away and de-escalate. He didn't. He kind of then the Wisconsin assistant started talking mess, and then it was like he just kind of mushed him, pushed him away, kind of flailed a hand, because if Juwan had really hit the dude would not have been standing. Okay. Yeah. Juwan's 6'8", 242 or whatever, 6'9", 240 still. Okay. I think there's a lot of pressure on Juwan Howard. The team went to the Final Four last year, the Elite Eight. They lost to
Elite Eight.
Like UCLA. This year they're having a tough season. They're 14-11. I happened to turn that game on. I didn't watch it live. I turned the game on like early second half. They were up like 38-36. And then they ended up getting smashed in the second half. So you're talking about you're on the real serious bubble, a chance to get a really big road win because Wisconsin's having a very good season. You get smashed in the second half, and then the opposing coach calls a timeout with 10 seconds left as a means to make sure that his guys don't have a 10-second call, which is so like, do that in practice, okay? Get the hell out of there. You got your 17-point win. You dominated the second half. You do not need to be teaching lessons by calling a timeout. But there's no reason to put your hands on anybody. So I think it's a combination of pressure at the level he's coaching at because they're not having a good season. They've had a disappointing season. Remember, they had the Dickinson, I think, the big center come back when he could have came out. They were loaded to kind of make another run, and now they're still in the bubble. They've got to win probably a couple of games in the Big Ten tournament to get in. There's a lot of pressure on Juwan, and I think he cracked. And I also think that he's not friends with a lot of other coaches in the Big Ten. It's a fraternity. So when you get coaches like him, Mike Woodson, Micah Shrewsbury, okay, they all have something in common against the Greg Gards and the Izzos. And I'm sure that the way Juwan does business and the way Greg Gard does business is different, okay? But Wisconsin's a machine. They recruit good players. They get the guys that aren't major lottery picks. They get the guys who are pretty much just like four-year guys. So they're a machine, and they got this kid Johnny Davis who's a baller. Okay, so I blame Juwan for losing his cool. I blame him for not de-escalating the situation. I also think there's a lot of pressure on him in terms of when he got to Michigan, people were like, he can't coach. He ain't never been a head coach before. What are we doing here? And now the pressure's on because he's underachieving with a good team. And there's a lot of college basketball pundits who didn't think Juwan should have gotten hired or hard on coaches, especially black coaches, who do not go through the pipeline of assistant because, there's a good assistant at Texas who would have been great for the Michigan job, like, who come straight from the NBA floor, like Mike Woodson did, okay, come from an NBA assistant. And there's pundits in college basketball who don't support those guys, okay, who are very vocally critical of how they go. So Juwan left himself open to that because can't nobody defend him. So all of the Seth Davises and all these guys, nothing against Seth, but all the college basketball experts are going to come after him for this. He left himself open, and there's no more wiggle room for Juwan. No more getting into it. Juwan, walk your ass off the floor after a tough loss. Shake a hand, bounce, okay? Or if it's up to have an assistant, go someone you trust, say, Juwan, just leave, bounce. Do not get into it about you called timeout or I didn't like that foul or whatever. Juwan's got to learn how to control himself. This is the big time in terms of college basketball. This is not the NBA. NBA, you can go at it, people ain't going to really hold you accountable like that. College, you're setting an example for the kids. It's about the quote-unquote kids. That's what the NCAA wants you to think. But it was a terrible look. And Juwan needs to check himself because he's going to have his ass out of a job. He do this again.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's down to his that last lifeline for doing this kind of stuff. There's no doubt about that. But again, my whole issue is that this is another example of when black coaches, they can't just be good. They got to be better than the fools they're dealing with. I mean, the right thing for him to do would have been to walk away. But damn, Gary, if you walking away and you're pissed and you say something to me that clearly says that you're pissed and I grab your arm, you're going to have some issues with me. But black coaches, they're supposed to, they unfortunately are held to a different standard in many respects when it comes to conflict. They almost have to go out of their way to avoid conflict, even when potential conflict is on their doorstep. Because the whole issue in all this was a coach physically putting his hands on another coach. And yet, who was the first one that did that? Greg Gard. He was. And to me, the fact that we as a society are and the other thing that pissed me the hell off was when Greg was talking about the incident, it's for some reason, it just slipped his mind that he grabbed Juwan first. And he talked about how Juwan pulled his mask down and said, I'm going to remember this, and how he started putting his finger in his chest. And yet it just completely slipped his mind that, oh, by the way, you forgot that you grabbed him first. You forgot that he stopped when you stopped him. That Juwan was in KIM, keep it moving mode after that game until he was stopped. And the fact that that whole aspect was so conveniently ignored in almost damn near every narrative, knee-jerk reaction, that's what troubled me. Juwan was wrong. There's absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But let's not pretend as if he was the only one that had something to do with what happened.
And I want to touch on a point that Gary made when you talk about the double standards of being a black coach versus being a white coach. When you look at the landscape of the NBA media, and obviously there's so much change that could happen and growth that's needed on any level. But I think college basketball, I don't even think I can say that college basketball, I think, is more toxic. So I think the biggest issue that I had was when you just look at the coverage of how that incident played out and the narratives that we're following afterwards. And again, the fact that only one coach was suspended and not the other when it does take two people to have a fight was really unfair. But I've been in college basketball locker rooms where you don't see any type of diversity. If there's one place in the world that really needs to change the way that they're viewing these athletes, I think it's the college basketball media scrums. And that was a big reflection. Again, like you said, we're not condoning the fact that there was a physical altercation, but when it comes down to an incident like that happening and then there's no real journalistic integrity in a sense of making sure that incident is covered properly, that's what bothered me the most, because I just knew, I can't speak for Michigan specific demographics, but there was no way that there were multiple people of color that were covering that incident and able to fairly give both sides, I think, coverage.
I think that's because like Greg Gard is in the, I wouldn't say fraternity.
That's a good word, though. It works.
So, in a sense, but these guys can probably call Greg Gard up and get him on the phone.
Right.
You might not be able to do that with Anthony Hardaway. Okay?
Yeah.
You might not be able to do that with some of these African-American coaches who know their job's on the line. Mike Anderson at St. John's. The coach we do not talk about much, who has a top 10 team, who is black, is Ed Cooley at Providence. Okay? Do you think with the success, if he was white, he would still be at Providence? And I know he's dedicated to Providence. Providence, a top 10 team right now. Providence. Mm-hmm. Okay? Providence no football team, just a basketball program in a city the smallest state in the union. Okay, like he deserves a ton of credit for what he's done with the Providence program. Let's give these guys credit, but I also think that there's somewhat of a good old boys network when it comes to the coverage of these coaches that if you don't cooperate or you're not in the circle of people that they know that they should because these guys think, oh, such and such, this assistant here should get hired at this job, when they take a chance and hire, especially a coach of color, because no one says anything about Chris Beard leaving Texas Tech for Texas, okay? Taking Texas Tech to the Final Four, to the national championship game, okay, then suddenly leaving for Texas. Chris Beard's a great coach. They dumped Shaka, who's doing a good job at Marquette, and Chris Beard, no one says a word about the lack of loyalty or whatever. No one's saying anything about Coach K saying, I don't want Tommy Amaker to replace me. I want John Shire. Tommy Amaker has done miracles at Harvard. You know how hard it is to win at Harvard? Okay, to get Division I caliber athletes
IB academics,
at Harvard, okay, to get guys who probably could make an NBA roster, because they've got a couple of guys over the years who are they got a kid at Seton Hall that transferred because Harvard doesn't, because remember, if you redshirt at Harvard, you lose that year. You don't get 5 years to play for in the Ivy League. So that's why all these fifth-year transfers, a lot of guys are from Ivy Leagues, because the Ivy League don't play that. They don't do the whole 5 years to play for.
Yeah.
So there's kids that are around the country that are, probably NBA caliber that played at Harvard or in the Ivy League. That's a hard place to win and have success. So Amaker, I'm sure, thought he was ready and thinks he's ready. He did Seton Hall. He did Michigan. He's done Harvard. But no, we need John Shire, the young rising. Okay, let's see how that works out. I'm not saying I don't know much about Shire. I think he's probably a very good young coach. But I also think that there's pressure on a guy like Juwan Howard, and sometimes self-created, because he took the job. He took such a prestigious job. Michigan is this school that in football and basketball feels like it should win every year. Okay, that's why there's so much pressure on Jim Harbaugh in terms of the football program. Michigan is one of those programs that thinks we're Michigan, you're not, we should win every year. And if we're not, there's a problem. I get that. There's a lot of pressure. But, there's a semblance of he's not in the fraternity. He's not in our group of guys. He's not who I thought should have got that job. When Mike Anderson got hired at St. John's, there was a lot of people that, the terrible hire. And much respect, Patrick Ewing is really struggling at Georgetown. There's a lot of people that didn't think he should have gotten that job. And maybe at this point they were right, because they've lost 16 in a row. But that's a lot of pressure to go back to your alma mater. And I'm not excusing Juwan. Juwan acted a fool, okay? Yeah. Just walk the hell away. Don't instigate. It's on national. The game was on CBS. It wasn't on the Big Ten Network, folks. It was on CBS Sunday afternoon, right before the All-Star game. So there was no bunch of eyes. He got to be better. He's got to be better, okay? Yeah. Or he'll be on back in Eric Spoelstra's bench as an NBA assistant, because he'll lose that job at Michigan, because that's a very good job, and he's got to be better. But I also think that you're right, Kwani. There's a semblance of a fraternity there that I know Juwan is not a part of.
Very good insight from both of you. It's been a great podcast. What do you have on the horizon coming up this week? We actually have some breaking news. Thank you, Ahmed, our producer. The Celtics are planning to sign forwards Malik Fitz and Kelan Martin to 10-day contracts, according to The Athletic and Shams. Breaking reaction to that.
Kelan is a guy that Brad is familiar with. I think he played at Butler, I think. He did play at Butler. So there's a certain amount of familiarity there, because obviously Brad Stevens, coming to Boston from Butler, even after he left, kept tabs on some of their guys there. Yeah, it's worth kicking the tires around. You can do a lot worse. But the problem is this, though. It doesn't really address, I think, a point that Gary was making, and that is adding guys who can give you value and impact right now. And I think the reason why they were going to have so much trouble doing that is because they don't have this vacuum of minutes that guys can take a dip into. You basically have 10 to 15 minutes that are pretty much wide open that you've currently slotted for Peyton Pritchard. You could easily take him out of that and throw in someone else. But you look at their rotation, I mean, it's pretty tight right now. You know, when you talk about Grant coming off the bench, you talk about Daniel Tice is now in the mix as well, coming off the bench. And Neesmith, you're not really sure where he fits. He's kind of like that ninth guy, if you will. So this, I think, is just a kick around the tires to see if there's something here that maybe is better than what they think. But I think these 10-day contracts will lapse, and we will not see these guys, you know, after 10 days.
Fair.
If they stick around that long. I'm not sure they even stick 10 days. They may not even last 10 days. Gary?
Well, I'm looking here. Martin you're right, Sherrod. Sorry. Drop something.
Had to catch his breath when he said that. Yeah. He was just like, Lord.
I know. You're right, Sherrod.
Martin oh my God, did I just say that?
Martin played at Butler. He's a guy who's bounced around, kind of a combo guard. The same thing with Fitz. Fitz played at St. Mary's, a California, transferred there. Both guys are not a lot of NBA experience. Both guys have had their little cup of coffee. So I think these are, like Sherrod said, these are roster fillers. I think if you sign a 10-day contract today, maybe it expires by the time, or you leave an open roster spot for that buyout guy, but you do it ASAP, and see if they want to stick, or you can sign to maybe one of the guys to a two-way contract. But yeah, none of these guys are going to be impact guys. I think these are guys to fill roster spots. I don't see anything. Kelan Martin was waived by the Pacers last month. He played 27 games. Now, he might be able to play. He played 27 games this year, 6.3 points, but 29.7 from three. So, I don't know. 6'5", 230. So he's a guard forward. That's the kid from Butler. So
he's a body on the floor.
Yeah, he's somebody that they can put out there. So I'm not
too high on either.
It's not a wow signing.
Yeah.
Now Fitz played 7 games this year with the Utah Jazz. 5 minutes a game. He averaged less than a point. So he's played 10 career NBA games. He transferred to St. Mary's from South Florida. He left school early. He entered the draft, was undrafted. So, he is another one, 6'5", 230. So they signed 2 big, thick brothers to fill out the end of the bench. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. What do you two have coming up this week with your side jobs or your main job, side jobs?
Wrote about our good friend Juwan Howard for Ebony. I'll have something.
Really? I didn't know that.
Stop. Yeah.
You know what? I didn't know that. Really?
Gary, can I just walk on your lawn for a little bit, Gary? Don't kick me off your lawn. All right. Just let me walk. Let me walk on your lawn for a little bit.
You wanted me to say that like 5 minutes ago?
He did. He just wants to drive the point home.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well done, Kwani. Drive, traffic, home. Got it. Nice. Well done. So, go ahead, Gary. What you got coming, Gary?
Oh, you said. What do you got after Juwan Howard?
I'm done.
That's all he's doing this week.
I'm going to pull my Ben Simmons.
He worked so hard on it.
I'm done.
Well,
I don't want to play anymore. I'm done.
Me, I'm in New York for the Brooklyn game, and also will be at Detroit and Indiana.
Wait a minute. You in a Brooklyn game already? Damn, Gary.
Nice. You got a
game like next week.
You were
in the Super Bowl?
Who game was Thursday, Sherrod?
You act like Ben Simmons playing in this game.
Who wants to tell him that it's Thursday?
Yeah. Anyway,
damn.
Funny. And I was able to get both Taco Fall and Amir Big Dog Johnson.
Wow.
To talk about
legends.
Yes.
Celtics legends.
Celtic guys, and both to talk about their experience with the Celtics in the G League. So that will be coming up Sunday. So looking forward. We had a real good conversation with the big dog. He's doing well. He's playing for the G League Ignite team. And, he's a mentor. He's an old dog. And as Sherrod will remember, and I don't really want to bring this up because Sherrod will start tearing up. He was a young pup when he played for the Pistons. He was right out of high school. And he said, obviously Ben, Wallace, and Rasheed came mid-season, and Rip and Chauncey were all his old heads. And
it's beautiful.
Even Eldon Campbell, some of those old vets. And he is doing the same thing now with these G League guys. He is their old vet. I mean, these guys are 13, 14 years younger than the big dog, and he is telling them how to be a professional on and off the floor. And he just still enjoys playing the game. So I think it's a really neat story of a guy who doesn't want to really let go. And he wants the big dog wants to be a coach. And he's learning the ways of dealing with younger players, because there's a generational gap between someone born in 87, which is 5 or 6 years older than Kwani, and someone born in 2000.
Which is how many years older than Kwani?
Which is when my little brother was born.
Yeah, because Kwani in 1987, that was 6 years before Kwani was born. She doesn't remember 1987.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Or anything that happened in 1987. She never heard of
a twinkle in a mama's eye yet.
She never heard of the Janet Jackson Control album. Nope. She never heard of Whitney Houston's second album.
Didn't even watch the documentary.
She had no idea until Janet Jackson until the doc came out.
Until the doc came out this year. Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy how life is.
Yeah. Because she came out before Kwani was born. So Kwani, I have no idea who you are.
I can't stand you at all.
I hate
you.
She barely remembered. What does that say?
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. But she barely remembers Destiny Child.
Okay, we're done here. So I am working on
name the other two members of Destiny Child besides Beyonce.
Kelly Rowland and Michelle.
No.
Oh, you mean the original girl?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember the original girl. I don't remember her name, but I know there was an original girl. That should count for something.
LaToya.
There you go.
Don't come
Gary.
right now.
You went solo too.
You get a pass for that one. No one remember LaToya.
No one
probably remember LaToya.
She had one other song after that.
Yes, they do. Stop that.
They had her on long enough to get on the album cover, and that was it.
Kwani
she didn't even make it past that.
Kwani named a 2009 Destiny Child. That's
the most relevant Destiny Child to cater to you. Come on, let's not do that.
But she could name every member of the Cheetah Girls.
I actually can't name every member of the Cheetah Girls, so there you go.
Anyway, I can't with Kwani. But anyway,
in conclusion,
two stories. One on Taco and him still hanging in there, and Amir Big Dog Johnson, one of our favorite guys to cover. Just a really good, really, really, really genuinely good guy. One of the good guys in the league. Still trying to do it. Still says his phone is open for a 10-day. So if any teams are interested in the Big Dog, bring him on. Sign him to a 10-day.
He's the best. He's the best.
That's good to know. I am working on the hub today, as usual. We have another spotlight coming up. We're going to work on Dorchester. So if you didn't watch the Jamaica Plain one, there was some good feedback on it. If you need to
going to the D. Okay.
Yeah, now I was going to say Detroit. Dorchester, not the other city. But that should be a good segment if you're looking for things to do in Boston that are not traditional touristy things. I've got you covered. Follow us, subscribe, share this with a friend. This was a pretty good episode, so I'm sure you have at least one friend that will want to listen to this.
Make sure it's a friend that was born after
1986. Just pick a random year. For Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani A. Lunis. This is the A-List Podcast. We'll be back next
Get off Gary's lawn.
Get off his lawn.